I haven't seen my neighbor in 6 months, and 3 days ago, I found out why. My name is Marcus, and I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where people wave from their porches and kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on, or at least it used to be that way. Everything changed when my neighbor, David Marsh, stopped coming outside. At first, nobody really noticed. David was always a bit of a loner, mid-40s, kept to himself, worked from home doing some kind of software development. But then, weeks turned into months. His grass grew wild. Mail piled up in his box until it overflowed onto the porch. His car sat in the driveway, covered in a thick layer of pollen and dirt. I'd see his lights on at night, sometimes flickering, sometimes just the blue glow of what I assumed was his computer screen. But I never saw him. Not once. Not even a shadow passing by a window. People started talking. Mrs. Chen from 2 houses down said she heard strange sounds coming from his place late at night. Scratching, like something, or someone, clawing at the walls. Mr. Rodriguez said he'd knocked on David's door a dozen times, even called the police for a wellness check. The cops came, knocked, got no answer, but said they couldn't enter without probable cause. The lights were on. No smell of decomposition, no visible signs of distress. So life went on. And David's house just sat there, silent and dark, like a wound in the middle of our street. But last Tuesday, something changed. I was taking out the trash around 10 p.m. when I heard it. A sound coming from David's house that made my blood run cold. It wasn't scratching. It was screaming. High-pitched, desperate, animalistic screaming that suddenly cut off into silence. I stood there in my driveway, trash bag frozen in my hand, staring at that house. Every light was on now. Every single one. And in the upstairs window, I saw movement. Just for a second. A shape that didn't look quite right. Too tall, too thin. Moving in a way that made my brain reject what my eyes were seeing. I called 911, told them everything. They said they'd send someone. But I couldn't wait. Something was wrong. Horribly, deeply wrong. And I don't know why. Maybe it was guilt for ignoring the situation for so long. Maybe it was morbid curiosity. But I walked across my lawn, crossed the property line, and approached David's front door. It was unlocked. The smell hit me first. Not decay, but something worse. Copper and mold and something sweet and rotten that I can't even describe. The air inside was thick, hard to breathe, like the house itself was suffocating. I pulled my shirt over my nose and stepped inside. The living room was destroyed. Furniture overturned, the couch ripped open, stuffing scattered everywhere. But that wasn't the worst part. The walls, every single wall, were covered in scratches, deep gouges in the drywall, some going all the way down to the studs, and they were all going in the same direction, downward, like something had been clawing its way down from the ceiling, or something had been trying to claw its way out. I called out, "David? David, are you here? It's Marcus from next door." Nothing. Just the hum of electricity and the sound of my own breathing. I moved through the house. The kitchen was worse. Cabinets torn open. Food rotting on the counters, covered in flies. But still, those scratches, on every surface. The refrigerator, the walls, even the ceiling. Some of them looked fresh. Some had what looked like dried blood caked in the grooves. My hands were shaking. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, to get the hell out of that house. But I kept moving, up the stairs, each step creaking under my weight. The scratches continued up the stairwell. Thousands of them, overlapping, frantic. The upstairs hallway was dark except for one room at the end. The door was partially open, and pale light spilled out into the corridor. I could hear something now, a wet, rhythmic sound, like breathing, but wrong. Too slow, too deep. I pushed the door open. David was there. He was curled in the corner of the bedroom in a perfect fetal position, his back to me. He was naked, his skin gray and stretched too tight over his bones. His spine jutted out at unnatural angles, and he was shaking, trembling so violently that his whole body seemed to blur. "David?" My voice cracked. "David, I'm here to help. The police are coming." He stopped shaking. For a long moment, nothing happened. The room was silent except for that wet breathing sound. And then, slowly, so slowly it felt like watching time itself break, David's head began to turn, but his body didn't move. His head rotated 180 degrees, vertebrae popping and cracking, skin stretching and tearing at the neck until he was looking directly at me. His eyes were completely black, no whites, no pupils, just empty voids that seemed to swallow the light in the room. And then he smiled. His mouth opened far wider than any human mouth should, jaw unhinging like a snake's, revealing rows and rows of teeth that weren't his. They were sharp, jagged, and there were too many of them. He spoke, but it wasn't David's voice. It was a chorus, dozens of voices layered on top of each other, speaking in perfect unison. He invited us in, he opened the door, and now we're home. I ran. I don't remember going down the stairs or bursting through the front door. I don't remember collapsing on my lawn or the police arriving minutes later. What I do remember is looking back at that house and seeing every window filled with shadows. Dozens of them, all watching me. The police went in. They found David, or what was left of him. The official report said he died of self-inflicted injuries and severe malnutrition, that the scratches on the walls were caused by him in a state of psychotic breakdown, that there was no evidence of anyone else being in the house. But I know what I saw, and I know what he said. He invited us in. I looked into David's internet history after the police released it to the family. In the weeks before he disappeared, he'd been researching demonology, summoning rituals. He'd joined forums, downloaded old text, watched videos about opening doorways to other realms. He didn't just go crazy. He let something in, and whatever it was, it wore him down from the inside out, scratching and clawing its way through his mind, his body, his soul, until there was nothing left but a shell, a home for something else. I moved out of that neighborhood 2 months ago, but sometimes, late at night, I still hear scratching in my walls, faint, almost imperceptible. And I wonder if David's mistake wasn't inviting them in. It was thinking they'd stay at his house. If you've ever dabbled in things you don't understand, if you've ever felt watched in your own home, if you've heard scratching where there shouldn't be any, leave a comment below. You're not alone, and whatever you do, don't invite anything in, because once the door is open, you can never really close it again. Subscribe if you dare. The nightmares are just getting started.